This is Out of Bounds. This is Out of Bounds. There you go. That's an all-timer right there. I lost you. I can't hear you. That is a hell of a way to start the show. Mia got so excited she knocked the microphone out of place. Now we got you.
We're going to test my settings too and make sure I didn't completely. Yep, there we go. And now we're better. Now here we are. All ready to go, John.
Wow. That is a hell of a start there, Mia.
I was just so excited because I was thinking about what I'm going to say for the opening toast, and I just got so excited.
You got so excited. This is Out of Bounds, your home for the weird, wacky, wild in the sports world on the Know Your News Network. That's me, O'Brien. I'm John Alba. I'm plugged in all the time. At least I can say that for myself.
I actually unplugged this weekend, John. It was very nice. I can't recommend it enough.
I unplugged a bit this weekend, too. I celebrated life a little bit this weekend, Mia.
Yes, because you had a pretty big birthday last week, did we not? Happy belated, buddy boy.
Thank you. Did you see the cake?
No, I have not seen the cake.
That's what I tagged you in on Instagram.
Oh, yeah, I did see that cake, yes.
There was a cake that someone got that not just had my face on it, but it had the Out of Bounds logo on it.
That cake I did very much see. I thought you were referring to one of the various recruiting cakes that have become a punchline in the high school, college football world.
No, this was a celebration of John Alba's life, which I don't know why anyone would do that, but they were doing it here.
Hey, we're keeping it going too.
We are keeping it going. We got a fun week planned. I'm going to be seeing Bruce Springsteen a couple times, once with Mia. It's going to be a great time down there.
And then next week's Out of Bounds, folks, is going to be live from my house with both of us here. What a vibe. What a vibe we have ahead of us.
First time for everything. We appreciate all you joining us here on Out of Bounds. And as we encourage you every single week, we want to hear from you. You can head to kynchat.com and leave a super chat there. Or if you want to just pop in the YouTube chat, leave us a super chat there. If you want it to get read on air, it's got to be a super chat. But we would love to hear from you throughout the course of this show. The past few weeks, we've had a lot of great engagement from our audience, and it always makes this show even more fun. Now, Mia, you said you had an opening toast in mind here. So what's on your mind?
Yes, well, let us begin with, as I'm making sure I'm retweeting our link to tonight's show to make sure everybody is locked in. We begin with what I am drinking. Any guesses? I can, it's covered by my koozie. Any guesses what I'm drinking on this lovely January 30th? That
looks like a Jacko Shandy. Sam Adams. Okay, so yeah, pumpkin beer of Sam Adams sorts. Okay.
So the reason I'm going with the pumpkin beer is not only because I need to clear it out of my fridge, but because my favorite ice cream shop here in Jacksonville, you may be familiar with Witt's Frozen Custard, John. Went to pick up some Witt's to bring to a buddy's party last night. So went to the quartz section, and I was expecting, the vanilla, the birthday cake, Buckeye, all their basic flavors. But they still had some pumpkin roll left over, which is my favorite flavor. And I thought, is it weird to be bringing pumpkin roll to an NFL playoffs party? And I brought it, and I think we finished the entire court last night. I mean, granted, there was like 10, 11, 12 people there. But I think we finished the entire thing, and it was an absolute hit. And so despite it being 83 degrees here in Florida in the middle of January, a cheers to the pumpkin beer. But moreover, a cheers to your return this beautiful, even though sometimes unfortunate state in the next week so that we can begin our pilgrimage of seeing Bruce Springsteen together for the first time.
We got some JMO. I'll drink to that. Cheers to that. Sometimes I just like the good old JMO.
And the pumpkin still hits, even in the month of January.
How about that? Well, we've got a very, very interesting episode here coming up on Out of Bounds, and we waste no time as we get to it. Oh, boy, this got a little ugly here on social media. The AFC Championship game between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs pick up a 23-20 win. Patrick Mahomes, we are witnesses to his greatness. Once again, returning to the promised land. Didn't look like his ankle was hurting all that much. He looked great in this one. But Cincy fans were irate after the Chiefs seemingly were on the receiving ends of several questionable calls in this game, Mia, including one where the referees apparently gave a mulligan third down opportunity to Kansas City.
Did you know there's a fifth down in football, John? I didn't until last night.
Well, they were trying to stop the play from happening before the ball was snapped. They weren't able to And then they just said, screw it, it doesn't count. You get a mulligan. And then the Chiefs converted on that. Now, ultimately, it did not matter because the drive went towards a punt conclusion. But still, there was a lot of questionable officiating this one. There was intentional grounding call that was controversial. There was a
Joe Burrow
game-ending
got
late hit.
smacked in the end zone and no one called roughing the passer.
That did happen as well. So, Mia, whenever we get games like this, it always comes up from the fan bases. Is the NFL rigged? Did they want Patrick Mahomes, whose dad played Major League Baseball,
and was at the game, and was smoking a Joe Burrow after the game?
Did they want Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl and rig it as such, Mia?
Of course they did. Absolutely they did. Because you want to know who the spokesperson for State Farm is, John Alba? Patrick Mahomes. Do you want to know where the Super Bowl is in a week and a half? State Farm Stadium. Conspiracy music. Cue it. No, I mean, listen, I will give Zach Taylor this. I would also be irate in the moment, but he said all the right things post-game, that they left a lot of plays out there.
They did.
In the moment, you look at that and you're like, yeah, but you got screwed here, you got screwed there. They had 0 total net yards in the first quarter. If you want to beat the Chiefs, if you want to take down mighty Mahomes, you got to do better than that. Joe Burrow was sacked 3 times in the first quarter. You got to do better than that. The Jaguars, yes, the lowly Jaguars allowed 1 sack the whole game to Chris Jones and company last week. And so, yes, we knew this Bengals offensive line was beat up. We knew that Effet Jamar's down there somewhere. We're still going to find a way. But in the end, yeah, it caught up with the Bengals. There were one too many miscues. Yes, Joe Burrow played with fire, arguably, for the first time in 10 weeks, and they got burned. It's that simple. And I do think they got burnt by the refs as well. I didn't know Al Roker had donned the black and white and become a zebra. But with all due respect to Al Roker, I think the inherent issue, John, with me when I looked at the game and I rewatched the highlights this morning, is that they called so much. It was so ticky-tack, essentially from the jump. And that is where this game reached a point where, either you let the game get out of hand and you're not calling anything, or you're literally calling everything.
Well, and you hate when great players, and there were many great players in this game, you hate when great players lose the opportunity to just play the game because of all the flags that are thrown and the officiating gets in the way. And listen, you can say what you want, whether this was warranted or not, but there were a lot of flags, and that does disrupt the flow of the game. That doesn't disrupt the enjoyment of the game as a consumer of the sport. It stinks. And that's
it affects the Bengals style, where the Bengals just want to fluidly go up and down the field. As much as they have a run game, they don't want to get stuck in the mud.
No, it's close to a run and gun offense that they run. And I understand that. You want to see that high octane arsenal play, but it is the nature of the beast. This happens all the time. This was not some conspiracy against the Cincinnati Bengals. I know it's fun for fan bases to think that, but that's not what this was. It happens every single year. Remember just a few years ago when we had that no call on the pass interference with the Saints. And then there's the conspiracy.
They changed the rules for a year, and then everyone got confused by the rules.
But it's a conspiracy against. That's the nature of fandom. That is just the nature of the beast. I will say this though: there is something that the NFL should look itself in the mirror and make changes to, and that is this. There should be full-time officials. NFL officials should all be full-time. There should not be any part-time officials in this league, especially with the amount of revenue that this league brings in. Every NFL referee should be a full-time league employee that is then part of a uniform system that week in and week out, you are under review for your performance as an official. How many calls did you miss? What didn't you miss? And you are with a consistent crew every single week that you travel with them. That, in my opinion, is how the NFL should handle this, Mia. And I think you would genuinely get less issues like this if there was a system in place like that.
Let's go across the board then, because obviously here on Out of Bounds, we talk all of the major professional sports in the world. What other sports have full-time referees? For our listeners who may not be as familiar with this, John, I'm very curious. Umpires, Major League Baseball.
I'm pretty sure most of
NBA definitely is full time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure most of the major league sports are full time. Of the Big Four. I'm going to have to check on that.
Right. I'm almost positive. The NBA definitely is. I'm almost positive MLB is as well. And I would assume hockey is, knowing how long their season is. And so that's where the NFL makes the most money of all of them. What are we doing? Still not having full-time referees. And, listen, the referees and having human flaws are part of sports. It's part of the game. It's why the debate about what to do about umpires and having robots has waged on, because human error is part of the game. But at the same time, I don't know, man. There needs to be more involvement from New York, and no, not involvement from New York scripting how the game should go.
Yeah. So the NFL is the only one of the Big Four that they are not full-time. So there are 24 full-time referees in the NFL out of 121 currently. So that's a problem. That's a problem because then you can't be uniform. And I do believe that is a big part of this general conversation. Baseball umpires are full-time. The NHL officials are full-time. NBA officials are full-time. And I understand you're playing one game a week, but the Shield, come on, that is like the brand in American sports. You just got to reach that. And I do believe, Mia, that if that happened, you would have less. This is all rigged. You hate the Bengals. Joe Buck hates my team. How many times have you heard something like that before?
A lot. We actually got into a spirited debate on XL Primetime today. Did you watch Monday Night Football more or less, depending on your view, because Joe Buck and Troy Aikman were there? Did it feel like Monday Night Football this year was bigger because of the two of them?
I mean, I don't put much stock in that either way, but I am a Joe Buck fan. I like Joe
Right.
Buck.
Like I would walk into the living room, and if I heard him and Troy's voice, my brain instantly thinks big game.
It's a premium brand.
Yeah.
Premium
It
brand.
just does. No offense to Steve Levy. No offense to, Tirico and Gruden back in the day. I mean, they, I guess, kind of carried a little bit of the same gravitas. But yeah, anyways, that's a tangent for another time. The point is yes, the full-time referees is an excellent point. My bigger issue beyond the holding call on the out-of-bounds hit by Joseph Osai on Patrick Mahomes that put Kansas City into manageable field goal range and allowed for them to win on a walk-off fashion. My bigger issue was the fifth down call, which was weird. They later, shout out to the CBS crew, because they did do a good job of showing, they showed the overhead view, the satellite view, and you saw the ref come running onto the field before they snapped it. So I'll give them that. The Joe Burrow, he got hit. And if that was Patrick Mahomes, it would have been called.
Well, I don't know why the league wouldn't want to protect Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow
correct.
is one of those.
But Frank Clark hit Trevor Lawrence in the same exact fashion last week, and they didn't call it. So I don't know. I'd love to hear a pool referee's, opinion on the situation. But I just think we're entering an era where, while more likable, Patrick Mahomes is the new Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. We used to joke about how they got all the calls, and protecting them was part of the shield. Now protecting Patrick Mahomes is the goal, especially when he's playing on one ankle.
He's amazing. He was incredible in this game. That's just what he does. He rises to the occasion when it matters. And now Kansas City once again headed to the Super Bowl, where, Mia, it will be the Andy Reid Bowl, a battle of two teams, because the 49ers could not get it done.
Yeah, it was a pretty good run for the Niners. See what I did there? But Brock Purdy suffered a elbow injury on the second play from scrimmage on the offensive side of the
UCL.
ball. Yes. And so now their Mr. Irrelevant final draft pick of the 2022 NFL draft goes the same way as the third overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft, and presumably is going to work his way back from an injury, that of course being Trey Lance, who started the season under center for San Fran. And they ended the season with a half Brock Purdy and Josh Johnson under center. Josh Johnson, though, excuse me, John, suffered a concussion, so he also could not finish this game. Christian McCaffrey was essentially the only 100% healthy quarterback for them, and even then, he was fighting a calf injury. And so the Eagles cruised to a 31-7 win. John, I texted you this in our group message. If the 49ers had somehow found a way to win this game, I want everyone to return their Coach of the Year ballots, regardless of who you vote for. Kyle Shanahan deserved to be Coach of the Year, but that didn't happen. I was actually upset that they didn't have Christian McCaffrey throw the ball more. they, if anything, brought back Brock Purdy, and everyone knew he couldn't throw more than 2 yards,
No.
but we're going to throw him back in there. So my
And,
question for you is, how creative should San Francisco have gotten in this game?
it's not even just being creative. It's a really bad look in hindsight, knowing that this guy tore his UCL and they sent him back out there. Because from a creative standpoint, yeah, you knew that they were going to run the ball. But man, you've got one of the best athletes in the NFL on your team in Christian McCaffrey. Let him get creative. Run the Wildcat, because with the Wildcat, at least
He was averaging 5 yards a carry most of the game.
Right. And with the Wildcat, at least there's some element of surprise. You're not entirely sure where the ball's going to go. Run a triple option. I don't care. Do something.
Well, for what it's worth, the triple option I'm okay with. The jet sweeps with Deebo Samuel, did you see how many yards he finished with?
No.
-9 yards on 6 carries.
Not great.
Not great, Bob.
But you got to do something. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and say this is all the Niners' fault. The Eagles are really freaking good. They are really good. This is like an all-time great defense by the Eagles right now. What they have an offense that can move the ball efficiently. They're not the flashiest offense ever, but they manage to move the ball effectively downfield in ways that can surprise you. They're just efficient. And they bring pressure like few teams we've seen in the last 15, 20 years. I'm scared no matter who I am if I'm facing the Eagles right now, especially Patrick Mahomes on an ankle that, regardless of whether he wants to say it's 100% or not, we know it's not. I don't care how creative the 49ers could have gone here. They weren't going to beat the Eagles.
Right. Well, here's my thing. Beyond the fact that the Eagles have 70-plus sacks, they have 4 guys with sacks in the double digits. With regards to what you said about their offense, yes, they have Devontae Smith. Yes, A.J. Brown has unlocked a different level for this offense. But here's my key stat to all this, John. Here are their rushing stats. Kenneth Gainwell was the leading rusher, surprisingly enough, with 14 carries for 48 yards. Jalen Hurts, 11 carries for 39 yards. Miles Sanders, 11 carries for 42 yards. Boston Scott, 6 carries for 21 yards. No one jumps.
A touchdown too, and it wasn't against the Giants
for a second straight week. Those stats don't jump off the page, but what those stats say is they're going to be tough in the trenches, which we know their offensive line is arguably the best in the National Football League. Mm-hmm. And moreover, they're going to run the clock. And when you're in San Francisco's situation, number one, where you don't have a quarterback who can throw it down the field, you need all the time you possibly can get so you can dink and dunk your way downfield. Number two, by their offense being this machine that it is, chugging up and down field, they score first. I don't know the stat off the top of my head, but they score first like 75% of their games. Yep. And so therefore you're pinning the defense, pinning the ears back, and that pass rush that is so lethal can tee off from the jump because they're usually up 14-0 by the end of the first quarter. And so that's what's so impressive about it. And that's part of why they run the clock and they just run the game out late, because they are up 14-21-0. And then their defense not only gets stops, but also forces turnovers and pushes the opposition into terrible field position.
They're just so well-rounded, and that's how they beat you, because they are good in every area. They're great in some areas, but they're at the very least good in every area. And that's where they're going to beat you. And that's Kansas City has its work cut out for it, because for as great as a team as Kansas City is, I'm not sure they're as well-rounded in that regard. Now, as far as the 49ers are concerned, did a game like this, Mia, pretty much all but confirm they have to take a shot at an Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady type?
Interesting.
That's
that
would
be funny.
This.
You play four quarterbacks in 1 year, and then you go out and you say, doesn't matter that 2 of the 4 are under contract for next year. I'm going to go everyone else is zigging and I'm going to zag, which would be very Kyle Shanahan.
This totally read to me that Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers is the Niners quarterback next year.
See, it didn't to me, because I think Kyle Shanahan, when you look at how he treats running backs, and quite frankly, when you look at how he treats quarterbacks, if the last 2 years is any indication, it is you are a cog in a machine. And Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady are not cogs in machines. They are the focal point of an offense.
But who's to say that can't be different when you bring in a star? Because he hasn't had a star quarterback. You can say what you want.
Right, and that's part of why they traded up for Trey Lance, because the hope was that he would take them over the top. So, yeah, could I see it happening? Sure. The window is there. They have to strike the iron while it's hot, because, from Bosa, who has had health troubles, staying healthy over the last few years, but are arguably one of the best players on the defensive side of the ball in the game today. McCaffrey, I mean, the situation with him in terms of
Use
his
him while you
health.
got him. Yeah.
Will he be? How long is he going to stick around in San Francisco? I know he's from that neck of the woods, but still, George Kittle missed a bunch of games this year. Debo Samuel wasn't healthy the whole season. Brandon Ayuk, same thing. So yeah, they're in win now mode. I don't know if you're going to win now with Brock Purdy.
I just kept watching it. I'm just like, yep, this is Rodgers or Brady territory next year. That's all I kept watching.
I don't know. Like the only thing that gives me pause is just Shanahan because I don't think that's his MO.
I think when you have a chance to bring in Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, your MO goes out the window.
And part of it too is like he drafted Trey Lance because he wanted a mobile quarterback because he was sick of system quarterbacks like Jimmy Garoppolo.
That did not work out.
Oh, the kid keeps getting hurt. And so that's the $1 million question. How confident are the 49ers and their medical staff that Brock Purdy and Trey Lance could both come back and compete for the starting quarterback spot? Or else, what do you do with them? If you go out and you get Brady or you go get Rodgers, what are you going to do with those two kids?
Well, those are short-term solutions, so I don't think you need to just get rid of them.
So what would you do with them?
I mean, you have at least one of them on your bench.
Are you trading one of them?
I think if you can get capital for one of them.
Okay. Interesting. Because Lance obviously so drafted in 2021, you'd have the 5th-year option. I mean, he played 4 games.
I'd have more confidence with Trey, like trying to get something for Trey Lance than Purdy coming off of UCL.
Oh yeah, I don't think Purdy would net that much, but I think Purdy's a great backup. That's why he was still on the roster.
But I'm saying coming off a UCL injury now, it doesn't sound like he needs Tommy John, but still, that's your throwing arm, and UCL injuries, as we know in baseball, can sideline people for a year plus in some circumstances. So I'm not entirely sure there, but alas, you mentioned the name Bosa.
Yeah, I have some thoughts. Let's talk about them.
Look at this right here.
That's Joey Bosa, folks.
That is Joey Bosa, and Joey Bosa, well.
He plays for the Chargers. He's wearing Niners gear.
He does. He's supporting his brother, as a good brother would, who was playing in the NFC Championship game. And he entered through the parking lot where fans were tailgating. And he was caught on video engaging with some heckling Eagles fans.
Eagles.
And I'm not going to repeat what he said because he said some pretty questionable things in this video. And all in all, Mia, it just wasn't really a great look. And it got me thinking, why would a player the stature of Joey Bosa, one of the better players in the NFL, why would someone of his stature stoop down to arguing with fans? What is the upside to this, Mia?
Because he was born and raised by Urban Meyer.
Ugh.
St. Thomas Aquinas, baby.
What does that have to do with engaging fans, though? Because
I think he's been an a-hole for years. I think it just came out on camera, quite frankly. And I mean, let's be real. There's been a lot of talk of Nick Bosa and his political beliefs and his views on people and how vocal he may or may not be about that. I just don't think they're good people. They're good football players. I'm sure they're good locker room dudes. This all but solidified what a lot of people believed about the Bosa brothers. Although some people were like, that was actually really smart of him. The "I'm rich" comment, like that's such a trump card, pun intended.
It's regardless of that, though. It just, when a fan takes out a camera, it just seems like you're asking for. I mean, it's not like he didn't see it; he saw it. It's not like he's going to get disciplined for this or anything. But there's no upside to this. There's no
$1 million.
Nothing positive can come from this.
Right. I mean, you and I can speak to it on a much more micro level, but like when people come up to me and want to take selfies, like I'm not going to try to fight them. Like even if they try to provoke me, I just, yeah. And like you walk past. So I don't know if he had a little too much liquid courage or I don't know, but I think he's just a hothead. And I think the Jaguars broke him in the first round of the NFL playoffs, in which he received not one, but two. But two unsportsmanlike penalties. No, I don't. If it was the Jaguars or if it was the Titans, I would say this. Two unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. He chucked his helmet at his head coach and the ground. And I think he's officially broken. I think he was broken before, but playing for the Chargers for as long as he has, and for whatever the reason, all the bugaboo around them has finally broken him.
It's frustrating playing for the Chargers, who just hired Kellen Moore to be their offensive coordinator today. We'll see what comes of that. Here is a piece of advice for anyone, whether you're a famous athlete or not. if someone comes up to you and they're having their phone in the air shooting video of you, which they should be shooting it horizontally and not vertically, but that's
Oh, I have
besides the
some
point.
thoughts on that.
That's besides the point. If someone is shooting video of you, don't do or say anything that could be used against you. In fact, I would just walk in the other direction and not say anything at all.
Or
It's
if there
probably the
isn't a
smartest thing to
camera,
do.
just in general, just go the other
Don't,
way.
don't
Avoid those
engage.
people. Yeah, don't
Don't.
engage. Don't do that. Don't do
There's
that.
literally no upside to this for
I
someone like
appreciated the video though because it gave me energy. Just to hate on the Bosa brothers, which I appreciate that. Speaking of brothers, but I love these brothers. Mostly, I can't wait for their mom to be the storyline of the Super Bowl in less than 2 weeks' time. That is one Donna Kelce. Yes, Travis and Jason Kelce are set to be the first pair of brothers to play against each other in a Super Bowl. This is
Does
their
she not
mom,
look like a
Donna.
Donna? Does she not look like a
She's
Donna?
such a Donna, and speaking of Ohio, she's from Cleveland Heights, and she looks like she's Donna from Cleveland Heights, Ohio. She has an Eagles Chiefs like split shirt with the pins with her son's photos on it, like from high school and stuff. Last year she went to the Chiefs.
This is her LinkedIn picture, by the way.
I love her. She went to the Eagles Bucks playoff game last year in Tampa, which was a 1:00 kickoff. And then the Chiefs kicked off at like 8:00 and she took a private jet. Or actually it might have been commercial. No, it was commercial because she was late to the game. She took a commercial airline flight from Tampa to Kansas City so that she could watch both her sons in the playoffs in one day. She is so dedicated, but now, John, is Donna Kelce going to have to pick sides on which side of the stadium she is sitting?
Well, we talked about this last week when we had the brothers in the NHL and they had the two parents had to one wore one jersey, the other wore another jersey. This is gonna be tough because ticket allotment, you get half the stadium. My gut says good old Donna will be treated to a private suite for the Kelce family, and I don't think she'll have to pick a side. I mean, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing.
She doesn't really sit in the suites, though. Every picture I see of her, she's like in the stands.
You're in an indoor stadium here for the
Super Bowl.
In circumstances. Look, it's win-win for her and it's lose-lose for her. You're going to be encouraging to one son and you're going to be comforting to the other no matter what. That's what's going to happen here. It's an enviable position to be in and a non-enviable position to be in. But it is a really cool storyline. And I'm actually surprised it took us to this point for us to have this sort of thing happen because it's not like these are the first pair of brothers in the NFL. But But for the stars to align in the way they have, where it's not just that they're two brothers, they're two really good players. I mean, Travis Kelce very much on his way to being possibly one of the greatest tight ends ever. And Jason in his own right is a stellar player for the Eagles. So that really does up the height and up the stakes of what is happening here with the Super Bowl. It's a great storyline to follow. I'm happy for Donna. So look at that face again. She just looks so
I'm
happy.
hoping there's a local news station that's going to document her entire journey from Cleveland Heights, Ohio to Phoenix. I'm very much looking forward to it. I really need that content. If you're a local sports anchor and you're hearing this, like, please ensure, like, call your affiliates in Ohio. They need to make that happen for us. We need to see the content.
Yeah, the goofy sportscaster's like, so who are you rooting for, Donna?
Right. Well, that was going to be my question. Our producer asked us today when we talked about it on the radio. JJ was like, so who's she rooting for?
She's rooting for everyone to have a good time.
So JJ goes, which kid was more troublesome? Travis. Oh, she's rooting for Jason then. It is worth noting that Jason Kelce is 35 years old. They drafted his heir apparent, Cam Jurgens, out of Nebraska, 51st overall this past April's NFL draft. So I'll ask you that, John. If the Eagles win, if you're Jason Kelce, do you go out on top?
I mean, it's not for me to say. It's his career, but it's certainly something that...
If you were 35 years old and you're on this team that's in its window, but they win it all, and you're 35, pushing 36, what do you do?
I mean, I'd have to consider it. I'd have to consider stepping away. I don't know where his body's at, where he feels his body's at, but it's certainly something that I'd have to consider. Travis Kelce's got a career in pro wrestling waiting for him once he retires. So whatever he wants to do, I mean, he freaking dropped "Know Your Role and Shut Your Mouth" from The
You
Rock,
jabroni.
and he called him a jabroni, which is an Andrew Badillo favorite,
Fantastic.
by the way. Hit him with that at some point,
Oh my
but
God. We
yeah,
said that's gonna be an audio drop for us on XL Prime Time for like years to come.
yes,
You jabroni.
no doubt about it. It should be fun. A guy that was at that Eagles NFC
Yeah,
Championship
I
game.
sent you this one so that you could
Yeah,
just feel the emotions.
yeah. Look at this man. That's Mike
That's
Trout,
Mike Trout, everyone.
Millville, New Jersey native.
Go
Also
Garden State.
star for the Los Angeles Angels. Not that you'd know that with how he's marketed and how relevant the Angels are in the discourse of Major League Baseball. He was at this game and cameras caught him and he went super viral on social media because they're saying this is the closest to a championship game that Mike Trout's ever going to get. And this all comes as Art Moreno said he's not going to sell the Los Angeles Angels this past week after he was shopping them for a period of time. Look at that face right there. That's a man that recognizes this could be the closest he ever comes to a championship. Should Mike Trout try to force his way out of Los Angeles at this point? Keep in mind, he signed a mega extension a few years back, but baseball, everything's made up and the points don't matter in that juncture, Mia. What do you think? Should Mike Trout try to get his way out of Los Angeles here?
I mean, I've been saying that for years. I'm shocked he hasn't. Like, I honestly don't understand. Like, if you really are the ultimate competitor, like, what are you doing wasting your career away out there?
Well, keep in mind, they have the other best player in baseball in Shohei Ohtani, who could be gone next year, potentially in some capacity, but he's under contract with them until age 38, a contract that goes till 2030. Over the next few years, and by next few, I mean until 2030, he is owed $37,116,667 per year. That is a pretty difficult contract to move, Mia.
How much
But
is that in California terms with the taxes?
still a lot of money.
Okay.
So it is a very difficult contract that he's going to have to try to leverage here. But I mean, do you see a competitor like Mike Trout, who's one of the more quiet superstars in all of sports, actively trying to do that at some point?
No, I don't. Like, that's the problem. Is if I was him, I would, but I'm much more vocal than Mike Trout. Knowing where he's from in Millville, outside of Philly, because he's obviously a Philly, sports fan outside of baseball from growing up. I don't really see any pull to go to New York. You're already in Los Angeles. It's the second largest media market in the country, and you're like the fifth or sixth act in town out there. And so I think that in terms of like you see Jalen Ramsey leaving Jacksonville, forcing his way out, and like being from Nashville even, and seeing his hometown like on the rise, but he forces his way to LA because he wants to be a superstar. You've seen that with T.O. You've seen that with tons of players over the years. Alex Rodriguez, to be quite frank. I don't see that with Mike Trout. I don't think that's his MO. I guess he just likes living in California, which is cool. But again, if you are the ultimate competitor, you tell me, John, are the Angels going to contend? I understand that they have Shohei Ohtani. I understand they have thrown lots of money at free agents in the past few years. But do you foresee them competing for a World Series this year?
No, I don't.
So what are we doing? What are we doing?
That all starts at the top when you have bad ownership. That's
Right.
trickle down. And we see that very few teams win with bad ownership. So I think with the sale that was allegedly going to happen with the Angels, a lot of people had some optimism for them.
Mhm.
But they frankly have, and it's something that doesn't get talked about nearly as much as it should because they are the baby brothers of Los Angeles. But they legitimately have two of the greatest players to ever play the game on their team, and they're a perennial third, fourth place team right now. And that is just insane. And if I'm Mike Trout, depending on what happens with Shohei Ohtani this upcoming season, he could be a midseason trade deadline candidate, potentially, unless the Angels really contend. There is some weight to throw around, but that is a lot of money that a team would have to take on for an extended period of time. You'd have to find the right partner. Now, I do have on good authority, on very good authority,
I'm going to lean back in my chair and listen.
that there have absolutely been teams that have kicked the tires on a Mike Trout trade in the past couple of years. And why wouldn't you at least ask? Why wouldn't you at least ask, right? Like, there's no harm in seeing what a haul would be. And the leverage that you would have in a Mike Trout trade is that if you're rich enough, which again, every Major League Baseball team is rich enough, it's just a matter if they choose to be. If you're rich enough to take on the contract, you're probably going to have to give up a good haul, but I don't think it's as big of a haul as it's some other sports, just because by agreeing to take on the salary as is, you're already doing the Angels a big favor.
Can you tell me which teams?
I mean,
No? Okay, I tried. Okay. He's not going to say. That's fine. No, so answer this. Is it a big market team or is it a small market team?
I'm trying to.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see where your head's at. Yeah. Only Todd Frazier wants to come home. Only Todd Frazier wanted to come home, unfortunately, John. And A-Rod, who was born a rock's throw from Yankee Stadium, even though he grew up in Miami.
Because all of my friends are just absolute trolls. One of them, for my 30th birthday, got me a bottle of wine that was from 1998. And the reason they got it for me was in honor, and I quote, of Chuck Knobloch. So that was pretty great. So yeah, make of that what you will. But no, listen, I think that we are in a player's era in sports, and yeah, if you have that leverage like Mike Trout does, he is peak dominance. If he retired today, he'd be a Hall of Famer. I'm all about it. And guys,
but also Major League Baseball still, I mean, as much as we want to blame the Angels for their crappy ownership, Major League Baseball has also done a crap job of marketing him. We can agree on that, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
If he's really the best player in baseball and he's this generational talent, why isn't he on every Wheaties box in America?
100%. Don't disagree with you on that. But we want to hear your thoughts, guys. Send us a super chat on YouTube or on kynchat.com so we will know your news. You're excited for this one, Mia. What do we got next?
Let's stay in Los Angeles, the city of angels, and also the AARP club. And by that, I mean the Los Angeles Lakers. Pat Beverly, always a character, but he took it to new heights this past weekend, John. He got a tech foul because he walked on the court with a photographer's camera to try to prove to the referee that they missed a call. I believe it's the best technical there's ever been. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is an all-timer, honestly. That's something that you would see in a Harlem Globetrotters game.
Like, it's a really nice camera, too, by the way. Like, look at that lens.
It is a very nice lens.
Definitely was high def.
That is straight out of a Harlem Globetrotters game. We need more showmanship like this in sports. I'm fine with that. It doesn't bother me. And look, the Lakers, as you said, the AARP stuff, they're not a good basketball team right now. They're aging. They don't have depth. They don't have cohesion. So if fans
They're just a bunch of old dudes that are like, yeah, it's 2011 again. No, it's not.
So if fans are going to crypto.com arena or whatever the Staples Center is now called, crypto arena.
RIP Staples.
If fans are going there and they're not being treated by entertainment on the court, well, at least you may have given them something in between the whistles. And that's what Pat Beverly did here. I think this is like an all-time great warranted technical. Yeah. He knew what he was getting himself into when he was going to do that, but prove a point. Let all of the fans see that you give a crap about what's going on. Let all the fans around the world who are watching on TV or seeing highlights on SportsCenter know that you're in on the gag and that you're trying to prove a point here. I actually think this was a pretty smart thing from Patrick Beverly. Who knows? Maybe he'll even get a sponsorship out of this with a Canon or something like that.
Yeah,
Nikon,
there you go. Yeah. There you go. My favorite was I walked into work this morning and one of my coworkers said, "Hey, did you see the Lakers game this weekend?" And I was like, "Yeah, Patrick Beverly." And he goes, "No, I was referring to like LeBron playing really well on Friday and dropping 38 or whatever he did." I was like, "Yeah, that happened too."
Kareem. He's about to pass Kareem.
Yeah, and he had a great he had a great game the week before too, because I was in Kansas City and everyone at the bar was going absolutely insane for the game winner that he hit. But like, no, I was too focused on Patrick Beverly. Defense wins championships. Pat Bev, forever. He's always the defender, both on the court and in the court of law.
No, I like this a lot. I think if in a superstar-driven league like the NBA, you need larger-than-life personality moments. This is certainly one of those. And it was not the only larger-than-life personality moment we got in the NBA this week.
Oh, I like what you did there.
This is your boy, Joel Embiid. maybe the best player in basketball. He's in that
He's so
conversation.
great.
And he is a gigantic professional wrestling fan. He loves pro wrestling. So much so, I'm going to give you a little bit of a lesson here, Mia O'Brien, because
Okay, yeah, teach me your ways. I'm a fringe wrestling fan, according to Tony Khan.
I assume that you're not familiar with D-Generation X.
No.
No, okay. So D-Generation X was one of the biggest acts in wrestling history. They were very popular in the late 90s, which was called the Attitude Era, which was just a period of time in wrestling where everyone and their mother watched pro wrestling. More people would watch Raw on Mondays than they would Monday Night Football. And it was aggressive and brash. And D-Generation X, which was comprised of several wrestlers, one of which being Triple H, who now runs creative for WWE. They used to do they had a motto, which was "suck it," and they would throw an X at their midsection, colloquially known as the crotch chop. Well, Joel Embiid loves the crotch chop, and he's done it a couple times in the past, and so much so that last year during the playoffs, Triple H came and rang the bell before the Sixers game with Joel Embiid, and they created shirts and stuff. But Joel Embiid got fined $25,000 this past week for the crotch chop. And Triple H, Paul Levesque, who runs creative for WWE now, said, "You keep doing that, I'll pay those fines if you want me to." Because he wants to make sure this lives on. So the question is, Mia, should Joel Embiid take Triple H up on this offer and just keep throwing that X up at all these referees and these fans?
Yes.
Or is it too brash? Is it too brash?
Do it. It's Joel Embiid. He doesn't care. He's got enough money, too, that even if Triple H doesn't pay it, he'll find a sponsor that'll pay for it. And so might as well make it WWE. I honestly, when I first saw this on our rundown, I thought we were going to talk about the other iconic picture of Joel Embiid from the weekend, which is him standing next to Kevin Hart. And Kevin Hart is like an eighth of Joel Embiid.
That is true, too.
Yeah. So Joel Embiid had a pretty busy weekend, man. He went to the Eagles game. He's out here getting fined for doing the chop.
Yeah, it's left over right, and then you throw it down. Mia's gonna do the crotch chop. There you go. And there you go. Look at Mia doing the DX crotch chop.
There you go. Goodness. That's good content.
Things I never thought that I would see. Mia O'Brien telling everyone to suck it. How about that?
That you should expect to see.
But it is degrading. It is a way to really grab everyone's attention. And see, the thing is, back in the 90s, kids didn't understand context here because, again, everyone and their mother was watching wrestling, even though it was so not appropriate in some circumstances. And I remember being in elementary school and kids who were in second grade throwing around, yeah, suck it, and throwing this. So Joel Embiid, a product of the late 90s himself, this is what he grew up on. And he's not liking calls. He's throwing the crotch chop. He's slamming balls down on opponents, crotch chop. That's just what he's doing, and I'm all about it. I'd say maybe not take WWE up on it, but every now and then.
I would, because then they have to start considering you for a guest appearance.
Well, they should. I think that's the trade-off if you do it. Okay, you pay my fines, I'll come do some stuff for you in the process. Though Joel Embiid, with how brittle he is, should not be bumping in a ring or doing anything like that. But it's great brand exposure for WWE, I can tell you that.
I don't blame him.
Great brand exposure for that. And it's all about having fun. And that's exactly what Duquesne was trying to do. Well, not Duquesne, but the students of Duquesne were trying to do.
This is one of my favorite sports stories and just news stories of the week that was. Don't expect courtside food deliveries at Duquesne basketball games in the future, folks. Duquesne issued a statement Thursday regarding Wednesday night's viral moment of an Uber Eats delivery driver, if he even was one, wandering onto the court during the Dukes game against Loyola Chicago, a.k.a. the Fighting Sister Jeans. The game was briefly paused after a man in a yellow jacket holding a McDonald's bag walked onto the floor. A few feet from where Loyola Chicago's Philip Alston was holding the ball. He was shown a couple minutes later walking around the concourse level, looking to track down the person who ordered the food. According to Duquesne, it was not the bizarre yet organic moment it initially appeared to be. It was a prank for a viral video. I can tell you this, the Loyola Chicago video staff also posted a play-by-play thread on Twitter of why this was a viral video. John, are the Duquesne officials taking this too seriously? It's just kids having fun. Also, Loyola Chicago is last in the A10.
Yeah, but I mean, it did disrupt the game, which that's never a good thing.
The
But
kid
this
also was
was
mic'd up. That was my personal favorite, was like the athletic director or the SID for Loyola Chicago, like took a picture of the kid and he's like, zoom in, look, there's a microphone on him. I'm like, yeah, I'm not surprised. I didn't think an actual Uber Eats driver was
my
going to
favorite
walk
reaction
courtside.
was of the referee that's nearest to him in the video. If you see it, that referee right there in the bottom left-hand corner, he sees him and he like starts to shoo him a little bit, almost as if the referee was the one that ordered the Uber Eats. It was like, oh no, I said deliver it 20 minutes from now, not now. And I thought that was funny how that all actually played out in real time. This is a fun little prank. Is Duquesne being a little serious about it? Probably a little too serious. But also, like, where's your security, bro? How does someone just wander onto the court in the middle of a game?
Right. I mean, well, Duquesne is in what, Pittsburgh or random
And so,
Pennsylvania
yeah,
town?
yep.
Yeah, random Pennsylvania town. If it was in Loyola Chicago, if it was in their Chicago campus, I would think there'd be a little bit more security. Maybe that's why the Ramblers SIDs were like so quick to hop on the Twitter machine and be like, I promise, like, this was not through any of our universities. Like, this was just kids having fun. Like, it's okay. Don't worry, man. It's all good. No, I think Sister Jean ordered the McDonald's, quite frankly. Yes, that's what I think.
I don't think she was making the road trip. Just my
No, she hasn't been making road trips, but she does talk to them before games. So we love her.
glad to hear she's still kicking and doing
Yeah,
well.
103, I'm pretty sure. Let me
And
I want to hold on.
that's
Sister
that is wild.
Jean. She is, hold on, I want to pull it up.
The bigger
Sister,
question is,
here she is. Sister, 103 years old.
wow, what do you think was being delivered? Like, it better, if we're talking Pittsburgh, it better be like Permanente Brothers or something
No,
like
it was McDonald's.
that.
I know. That's all the more reason why it was like a viral video
Gotta
that
be
some kids threw
Permanente Bros,
together.
man. I did last time I was in Pittsburgh. I actually Uber Eats
As
Permanente
you
Bros,
should.
and it
Listen,
was great.
I do that when I go on all my road trips for work. I like will take Uber. I won't even. This is pre Uber Eats. What's it called? Torchies. Well, the taco brand, like taco chain in Texas. Really good breakfast tacos. Torchies, I'm pretty sure is the name of it. This was pre Uber Eats in 2018. I literally took an Uber because my flight wasn't until 2 o'clock on Monday after the game. I literally took an Uber to Torchies at 10 a.m. Ate the Torchies breakfast tacos with my Uber driver because he wanted some. So he, clocked out and we sat there and we ate the Torchies together. And I took an Uber back to the hotel. So at least now they can deliver it to you, whether you're at home or
Yeah,
courtside.
you got to make the trip yourself. I like it. Let's wrap up here, Mia. Rolex 24, an event you and I have both covered down there, Daytona. The annual Rolex 24 went down ahead of the Daytona 500 in a couple weeks at the World Center of Racing. For those not familiar, it's a team race over 24 consecutive hours. Meyershank Racing won for the second consecutive year. Acura picking up the W. There was a very cool last lap pass. They led 365 of 783 laps. This is insane. How much racing could you tolerate in a 24-hour period, Mia, if you were in that position?
So, from covering the event, I know that roughly each driver does 4.5 hours, and then they have like 8 hours off because it's teams of three or four usually. So 4.5 hours is what it used to take me to get from my hometown of Freehold, New Jersey, to Ithaca College, where I attended school. And I could do that drive like back and forth. I did it once. I drove up on a Saturday and I drove back on a Sunday. And even that, I was like over it. Granted, that was before I moved to the Midwest where you have to drive everywhere. And that was a lot for me. And that was twice in a 48-hour period.
I think this drive is a little more intense than that.
Yeah, it's also a little more intense. There's also that part of it. But at least like it's so intense that like then like you'll fall asleep, I would think. I know a lot of them have said it's so hard because your adrenaline is rushing. But when it comes down, I would think you crash. But then also you're like sleeping in the trucks. So, you're in the trailer. Are you sleeping that well in the trailer? Like I've seen and heard these like stories because obviously these teams, they're not all NASCAR, level, like, accommodations in those trailers.
No,
So I think
not.
that would affect it, to be quite frank. If I had a good night's sleep, maybe I could make multiple shifts, but probably not. Probably one of the 4.5 hours, and I probably would do like 2, and then like 8 hours later do another 2.
And keep in mind, it's on the road course too at Daytona, which it's a lot of swerving, and you got to really be on top of your game. So That is a lot of mental endurance to do 4.5 hours of just that. And you may be saying, well, John, a normal NASCAR race can take that long. And that's true. It can. But you also have the banked turns in that case. And have you rode around the course at Daytona?
Yes.
The track?
Yes,
I have
have.
as well.
Yep.
And who drove you around it?
I drove myself, I
Oh,
think.
you drove on it. Oh,
Maybe,
so
yeah. Oh, no. I think I had somebody driving me. I forget.
so
It
so
was 2020. I've like kind of blocked most of 2020 out
so
of my mind.
Kurt Busch drove me around
Yes,
Daytona,
I do remember this.
and we hit like 180 miles an hour going around the turns. And the thought that anyone could do that for a sustained period of time blew my mind. The amount of G's that you pulled, it was insane. So I give a lot of credit to drivers for having that endurance. I couldn't do it for 4.5 hours, and then you add in the road course where it's just constant turns. This is a race of speed and endurance. I give these guys a lot of credit, Mia.
Yeah, I mean, that's any NASCAR driver, any stock car, any sort of driving. I think it's similar to wrestling, quite frankly. Not your WWE wrestling,
Amateur wrestling.
Olympic wrestling. I think it's very similar to that, where it truly is me versus me. Although obviously in this situation you're competing against other teams, but so much of it is the mental of preparing for the unknown of what is your body going to do for 4 hours inside of a car, and then you got 8 hours to rest up, and then you got to go right back in.
Mm-hmm. Awesome event. Go check that out if you haven't before. It's worth even just taking a peek at, because those teams put everything they can into getting those cars ready, and it's a lot of fun. I love Daytona. I think it's so cool. Even if you're not a racing fan, it's one of those things that as a sports fan you should experience once in your life, just to feel it and see it. It's very, very cool.
Yes. Dirks Bentley is the pre-show concert for the Daytona 500. Shout out to the Daytona social team. Their post today was so funny. They were like, we're going to just surprise you with it. And then like very tiny fine print, it said announcement today at 2:00. I was like, well done. I appreciate that.
That is another episode of Out of Bounds in the books, my friends. Next week, Mia O'Brien and I will be back at you with an episode in person. So it'll be a lot of fun. Anything else you'd like to add here, Mia?
I was going to say your Super Bowl pick, but we still got a whole nother week before that. Are you ready for the Pro Bowl games, John Alba?
I could not care less. And maybe we'll talk about that next week. So that's what we'll see on Out of Bounds right here on Know Your News. We will see you next time.